Where are you going to start?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey everybody, how you doing today? This video is going to go on my channel, and this will go on his channel. But this is a first for my channel. We're actually mainly talking about vapes on this video.
Vapes?
And I don't really know what they're called, like the technical everything with them. So we got somebody that's been vaping for how long you been vaping?
I don't know, like 3 or 4 years probably.
And so he's like a master at it now. So we're going to
say that.
he knows he knows almost everything about them so far. So we can get the vape king over here.
But I don't really know how to structure this, but I guess we'll start off with the main vape that I use, the Aegis Legend by Geek Vape, and I've got the Fire Luke Mesh Pro tank on top. If you don't know anything about them, this piece right here and this are two separate components, and you buy them separately. They do make packages that contain what's called a box mod and a tank, and I mean you can get them that come with both, or they're like starter kits because they'll come with the box mod and the tank, and those are usually cheaper, and the tanks aren't as good build quality. But when I got this one, I went all out because I was looking for a while because I was trying to get something that was going to be really good and that I wouldn't need to change for a while, because I'm not trying to go out and buy like fucking 15 different vapes, even though I have like 8 different vapes in total now. It just kind of fucking stacked up over time. Not even trying to do that, but I got this one and I've stuck with this one for a while. I've had it for probably 6 months, and it's a really good vape. I really dig it. And then recently, because you know you gotta be a cool kid, I got a fucking Juul.
Cool kid.
So it does have an off-brand tank, or not a tank, off-brand pod on there, because I'm not spending nearly $20 for a pack of 4 pods, or however much it is. But especially, I don't know why it is, but the mango pods for the Juuls, the name brand mango pods, are fucking like $30 for 4 pods. And if you smoke a lot of that thing, those things go quick as shit, and there's no reason to spend $30 for that. It's just ridiculous. I don't know why the premium's so high on them, but it's whatever. I just don't pay for them. I just pay for the off-brand ones.
I got a question. Now, what's the actual difference from this to that? In my opinion, I really don't know. I know that that's small.
So a Juul, what most people would know it as just a Juul, is what is known as a pod system. So this part right here, just the silver part, is the battery. That's all that's in there is the battery. And then this top piece that you interchange, which are the pods that you buy, are pods, so it's a pod system. Now, the Juul is, I haven't seen a lot like this, but the Juul comes with pre-filled pods. So if you look in there, you might be able to see that there's liquid inside of that pod. You might not be able to tell from this camera, but there's liquid inside of the pod. And with this, all you do is buy a pack of pods, insert it into the battery slot, and then you vape it.
This crap's cool as hell. It's got like some sick designs.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. I'll show those in a minute. Okay. But with the Juul, it has a juice inside those pods, what's called salt nicotine, and salt nicotine is generally considered the closest thing you can get to a cigarette without having an actual cigarette, because the concentration of nicotine is much higher than what's called free-base nicotine, which is what would come in a normal bottle like this. And I'll talk more about these later, but this is what you would call free-base nicotine. And then what goes in a Juul pod is salt nicotine. So salt nicotine is a much higher concentration of nicotine than free-base nicotine, or free-base juice. And you use that to get more like a cigarette. But the reason you smoke salt nicotine in this, and then free-base juice in a tank like this, because if you try to smoke salt nicotine out of a big tank, like out of a box mod, it'll give you nicotine poisoning, because the amount of nicotine that's in salt nicotine should not be ingested with that much smoke. Like, the reason that they only blow out that much smoke is just for safety reasons.
Okay.
Yeah. And then like this, the juice that I have inside of this tank is only 3 milligrams of nicotine, which is the lowest you can get out of everything that I've seen. And then this, what's in here, is 60 milligrams of nicotine. So this is 57 more milligrams of nicotine than what's in that big tank. And because it's so much, you don't want to ingest all that at one time like you would if you're blowing a big cloud out of a box mod.
Yeah. I was wondering, like, I seen people on YouTube and stuff making, like, big competitions about who can get the biggest vape cloud and everything.
Yeah, that was going on for a while. I mean, I would assume they still do that kind of stuff, but I mean, I think at the point that they're at now in the vaping industry, that they can go bigger, but there's not much of a point. There's not much of a point anymore. I mean, this juice isn't even. This isn't. It's kind of hard to explain. This juice doesn't produce like the biggest clouds. Like, you can get separate juices that produce more vapor than other juices. There's this thing called a VG-PG ratio, and basically the VG is how much vapor production you get, and the PG is how much flavor the juice has. And a lot of juices are 50-50, so you get the same amount of flavor as you get vapor, but it goes all the way up to 80 VG, which gives you 80% of that juice is just vapor, and then 20% is the flavor. And they also do 80 PG, 20 VG, which is a little bit of vapor but a lot of flavor. So it all just depends on what you want to get. I usually stick with 70-30, 70 VG, 30 PG. I think that's a good ratio. That sounds like you wouldn't get a lot of flavor out of the juice because it's only 30% ratio of the flavor, but it's fine, because I mean, this
hotboxing or something.
I mean, it doesn't show up that well on the camera, but I mean, you don't really need anything more than that. I mean, unless you're going for competitions and you're trying to win money off of it. Because I mean, if you're trying to do that, then more power to you. But I don't see any point.
True. I say that I love the smell of it. To be honest,
yeah.
A lot of them do give off good smells, but me, I've done them a few times. I've tried them and everything, but I've not actually full blown got into the science of it, and it's really complicated for me to understand. At least because I've burnt a few cools apparently, and apparently it's very easy to burn them too. I didn't realize how easy they were to burn because I burnt my mom so many times, and she's like, "I just put this in," and I'm like, "I didn't know."
Yeah, I burnt a lot of coils when I first started vaping because it's easy to burn them if you don't know what you're doing. But once you figure everything out, it's pretty simple.
Yeah,
it's simple stuff.
Apparently, I was holding the button in before I even would start puffing.
Yeah,
and
yeah, you want to try to time that up pretty close together.
Yeah.
Start your draw as soon as you press the button.
Yeah. From my experience, from smoking cigarettes to smoking vapes, I would rather hang out with somebody that vapes all day than anybody that smokes a cigarette, to be honest. Because, people blowing smoke in front of your face all the time can get annoying, but it doesn't choke you up. Not nowhere near compared to
it's nothing
a
like
cigarette smell. The smell is
the smell of cigarettes is just disgusting to me now.
Cigarette smell is disgusting, but the smell of these things right here is just awesome. It smells like you got some incense going or something.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest draws to people that want to start vaping is the amount of flavor and variety. And I mean, like in like a pod system like a Juul, you're not going to find a whole lot of variety with the flavors, especially if they're pre-filled pods, because you just have to buy what's available. But there are pod systems, and I have one that I can show later that that can also take freebase juice instead of just salt nicotine, and that means you can take juice out of something like this and smoke it out of something like this, which is a cool concept.
And they got little tiny needles too at the tip.
Yeah, I mean,
and they got dropper ones too.
Yeah, I got one of those. I got some examples to show off. So this is what is known as a 60 milliliter bottle. This is I mean kind of average size for what you're going to get when you get a juice bottle. It just depends on how much juice you want and how fast you're going to go through it. Because a 60 mil doesn't last me forever, but there are. These are what are known as gorilla bottles. I think there are gorilla bottles and unicorn bottles, but there's not a whole lot of difference between the two. They basically all look like this with the little drip on top, the little squeeze port.
Like a ketchup bottle.
Those are the more common types of juice bottles, and those are the ones that I prefer. And then you have a 100 milliliter bottle, which is 40 more milliliters than the 60. I've almost went through this entire bottle, so.
On average, how long would a bottle that size last you?
60 ml bottle, probably 2-3 weeks. And then the 100 milliliter bottles, it's about the same. Got the same kind of little style dropper on the top to squeeze in there, which is really easy access for the type of tank that I have. And then not the lowest you can get, but close to it. This is a 30 milliliter bottle, which is half of the 60 ml bottle. And these are usually sold at a really cheap price. I got this one for $10.99. And they also make ones that are half the size of this, which are 15 milliliters. And the primary reason those are sold are just so you can test out the flavor of the juice. Because a 15 milliliter bottle, that's going to be like probably max like 4 or 5 refills of your tank, and then it's going to be gone. And then the other style, my least favorite design of a bottle is the drip tips. And
the reason I like the drip tip look is because I feel like I'm a scientist.
Yeah, it does have a cool aesthetic to the bottle overall. I mean, I'm not dissing on the design of the bottle or anything, but I mean, you take this, you unscrew the cap, and then it comes with like a little medicine dropper basically, and you just put the juice in there like that. It's more time consuming for the kind of tank that I have, but there are I'm not going to get really technical, but this is what's known as a sub-ohm tank, and that doesn't I can't explain what that means, but sub-ohm tanks, they usually have a piece on the top that will either slide back or come off completely, and then that little hole right there is where you insert your juice. And then there are also tanks that are still tanks, but they're what are called RDAs, which is I can't remember the terminology for it, but it's an RDA, and basically with it, you don't fill up the tank, you just drip juice straight onto the coil and then smoke it, and then when you start tasting less of the juice, you just drip more on there and keep going like that. So you don't have to worry about filling up an entire tank, but you do have to worry about constantly dripping more juice onto there so it's not burning up the coil. And that's for, I don't know anyone that has an RDA or an RTA or an RDTA, because there are a bunch of different types of them. But they're not very accessible for people that just want to get into vaping, so I've just kind of steered clear of them because I just prefer sub-ohm tanks. It's easier. I fill it up before I leave for work in the morning. I get back home, it's almost empty, and then I fill it up again, and I'm good to go, and I just repeat that cycle.
A lot of people say it's the most expensive part of vaping is getting started in vaping, like buying all the equipment.
It really is.
And then after that, it's cheaper than anything else.
Yeah, it is kind of expensive to get into the hobby, because I mean, it's not high end, because these are cheap compared to some of the stuff that I've heard of and seen. But the box mod portion of this was $80 or $90 when I got it, and the tank was $40. So just that alone was $120, and then you got to factor in coils, which we'll get into in a minute, which are what you have to interchange. That's essentially the cotton that absorbs the juice and then helps it burn so you can make the vapor. Those go out, so you have to replace those. And you have to get those, and then you have to get the juice. And after you get all that, it can get kind of expensive, because when I bought that Aegis Legend, everything that I got at the time, it was around $200 for everything that I got. So,
me buying all that, and then after, if I was to buy that, I think some people can go through a big bottle like that within a week.
Yeah, the 100 ml bottles.
Yeah, and
yeah, if you vape a lot, you can go through those 100 ml bottles a lot, and a lot of people prefer 100 ml bottles because they have so much juice in them and they vape a lot. But I mean, I don't really vape enough to buy 100 mils. And the other thing, a lot of the vape stores that you go to won't always allow you to sample their juices. The best ones, in my opinion, are the ones that are, because it's not recommended to do that, but you can unscrew the cap on the vape on the juice bottle and just put a little dab on your hand and then just like lick it and then taste it that way, and that's how a lot of them will do it. Some, they'll have pre-filled tanks for certain units, or just like an entire test unit, like almost like a pod system. They'll have that where you can test it in there. I don't really see that around anymore. That was back when I started vaping. People did that, but they don't really do that anymore.
I guess it wasn't sanitary, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, they put little like plastic covers over it so you could change them out and throw them away after somebody tried it, but I don't really see them do that anymore. But yeah.
Only thing I say, if I was to get into vaping, like saying buying this right here, depends on the store you go to. This can be like $20 to $12, and buying one of these every 2 weeks for me, and just having to clean this mojo is a lot cheaper to me than having to go through all this process. And just today alone, we went to like 6 stores just to find one little coil or something. What was it?
Yeah, we had to go to a couple different stores just to find a coil for my vape. For whatever reason, they were all on backlog. They were sold out of them, like every shop I went to, and I just had to settle for something that I didn't really want to get, but I needed a coil, so I just had to buy it anyway. So.
Yeah, and it's I don't think it's a bad hobby at all, or something to pick up if you're especially if you're trying to stop smoking. I seen Trent, well, Knucklehead, in general, quit smoking and dipping altogether, and just went all to vaping.
Yeah, because when I wanted to quit, I was dipping and smoking cigarettes at the same time, which was it was too much for me. And I knew I had to cut something out, so I started with dip. I cut dip out completely. That wasn't too hard to come off of for me, to be honest, because the main reason that I started dipping in the first place was because of the high school that I went to. It was a very popular thing to do. It's a really redneck high school, so a lot of fucking people did it. And a lot of the teachers, surprisingly, would allow you to dip in their class. So it was easy to access. You could do it in a lot of people's classes. Even the teachers that didn't really let you do it, they wouldn't say anything if you did do it because it was just so common at our high school. So I was like, yeah, I'll give this a shot. And then I dropped that, and then I was still smoking, so I still had the nicotine. And then I decided to drop cigarettes. I quit and went back a few times, but right now I've been quit for 4 or 5 months so far. Quit cigarettes. It's the longest I've made it so far, and I'm hoping I can stay that way. But it's good to quit smoking.
There's nothing really bad about vaping. Yeah, they say that you watch these stupid commercials saying that it's a gateway to smoking. Yeah, but at the same time, it can help people from stop smoking to this.
Yeah, it definitely helps stop. It definitely helps people that are smoking cigarettes or anything else with tobacco stop smoking that. But in my opinion, if you're just going to go pick one of these up and you're in high school or something and you've never smoked cigarettes before and you just want to do this because it's really trendy, just fucking try to get a little bit more money or something and get something like this, because the juice that you can put in this, like all of the juice that I have here,
that lasts so much longer.
It does last longer, and all this juice has 3 milligrams of nicotine. But you can get this juice without any nicotine in it at all, and then it'll literally just be vapor to smoke, and you can vape it just because of the flavor. If you want to start vaping but you don't smoke cigarettes already, that's the route that I would recommend going. I do not suggest anybody pick up one of these if you've never smoked a cigarette before, because all this is going to do is get you addicted to nicotine. And even if this doesn't start you smoking cigarettes, all this is going to do is create a new addiction that you're going to have to fuel. So, and if you're not smoking cigarettes, this isn't going to be cheaper because you're not buying anything else in the first place.
Like you were saying, that will get you addicted to nicotine and stuff. They do come with ones that, if you just want it for the flavor instead of, like if you're used to chewing on bubble gum or something all the time, but you are tired of chewing on gum or something, you can go to this, and they have non-nicotine in some of them, I think. Don't they?
Yeah, they make 0 milligrams of nicotine in like every juice, basically.
They have some for just putting flavors in, and you could get Skittles, cotton candy, whatever.
Any flavor you want. I mean, if you want to start vaping, do that if you're not already smoking cigarettes. If you're smoking cigarettes, I think it's a really good alternative because it eliminates all of the dangerous properties pretty much of it, except for nicotine, which is an addictive chemical and is known to cause like birth defects within pregnant women. But I mean, overall, it's a much safer alternative to traditional cigarettes.
Yeah, overall, I have only thing that I have heard that actually has any damage to people with it, it gets watery in your lungs because of the vapor. But,
yeah, I've heard of that before. I'm not sure if that's completely true, if it's been proven or not. I don't really think it's been around long enough for us to see the long-lasting effects of it. I think that's going to take another couple of years, 10, 15 years maybe, I don't know. But I think until then, I think it's a lot safer.
In my opinion, it is.
Yeah, just in our opinion, we think it's a lot safer.
And to be honest, like, I don't know really about any of this crap that, vaping or anything, but they got some awesome looking shit, like his right here. It's got this old leather look right here.
Yeah, it's got the this orange part is the real leather grip on it, which you don't really need. I just bought it because I thought it fucking looked cool. But I mean, this one in particular is advertised as like a quote unquote indestructible like box mod because it's got the leather grip. This is all these side plates are rubber. Nickel, I think. These are rubber mats. The charging port is right here where those two lines are, and that pops open to stick the charger in, but you close it, so if you drop it in water, it's not going to damage the port that way, because that's a really easy way to just trash a box mod. And then it's got the battery door on the bottom, which is really secure. So I mean, this thing, if you drop it, drop it out of your car, you can run over it with your fucking tire. People have put this thing through tests and shit, and I mean, it works.
This thing has a one-time battery. Once it dies, it's dead. Can you charge these?
Yeah, you charge them.
Well,
it's not the battery isn't disposable. The battery of the Juul isn't disposable, just the pods are.
Well, most of the time
they make ones that are just whole units that are disposable, though.
To be honest, when these things first come out, you didn't even have to be 18 to buy this stuff.
Yeah.
And that was the big thing that got people started, because they were like, "Oh, I didn't even gotta be 18 to buy nicotine. Okay, cool, I'm gonna buy it." But overall, this thing right here, the metal part, when these first came out, they were like blowing up in people's faces and everything. But they have fixed that and so much more.
Definitely.
People are so scared that they're going to blow up or something, that are scared to try it. You can still. I'm not condoning and saying that you have to try this stuff at all. But like I'm saying, if you are wanting to try anything, don't go straight for the most nicotine at all. Go to something that you start off low and go work your way up. Because they have like 0.3 milligrams of nicotine, all the way up to like 60 or something like that. And
you guys are pretty high.
And then you can knock your ass off if you want to.
Yeah.
But in general, this has a rechargeable battery and it's pocket size.
That's the main. I think that's the biggest part about the Juul is just the form factor of the entire unit and the portability and convenience of it. Because the one reason I have that Juul is because when I'm at work, I like to have something that I can just quickly slip out of my pocket, take a couple puffs, and go back to work when I need some nicotine, or when I want some nicotine rather.
Yeah.
Rather than toking around that big ass thing in my pocket all day.
Plus, with these, if you're not careful, these can leak out in your pocket and stuff. If you're not
some
careful.
Tanks are very prone to leaking, some more than others. But I mean, as long as you're taking care of it and you know what you're doing, it's not going to be that big of a issue.
And a cool thing about these, all of them now, they have. You can pop the batteries out and charge them up instead of having to buy new batteries every time. And the batteries do, I would say, last a good 24 hours.
The batteries last a long time on them, depending on how much you vape.
Yeah. And but my one buddy, when I used to work with, he would vape so much that his would be dead by the end of the shift. And I don't see how, when we only had a 15-minute a 15-minute lunch break.
Yeah. And with a lot of the newer vapes, the newer box mods, if you connect this charging port right here, if you plug it in with a USB, which is how it charges, into a laptop or something, you can go on a lot of these companies' websites and they'll offer free updates, like firmware updates to your box mods and to your vapes. Then you can update them and it'll add new features, it'll elongate the battery life. I haven't done it because I'm lazy, but there are a lot of these companies that will just give out free updates if you have the product. So.
Yeah. And out of all the products that I ain't like, I don't know, what's that one company that's real big on the vapes in general.
Smock.
Smock, yeah.
That's the one a lot of people know of is Smock. I've had a lot of their products before. I really like them.
Smock is I never really I don't know much about them or any company that does vaping, but I would from my experience with people that have used Smock compared to some other brands and stuff, if you wanna like I would say the best from what I've seen, Smock is more guaranteed to not leak and everything from what I've seen.
Yeah, Smock is a really good brand. They probably make the most accessible stuff that's out there right now. Because I mean, they're making all kinds of shit all the time. Most of their stuff is cheap, but I mean, it's not like you get what you pay for. I mean, you do, but don't take that to mean that it's bad quality. Because I mean, their stuff's good quality. It really is.
Like $15, you'd be like, oh, that's cheap or something. But I don't think they have sell anything that cheap. But if they do, in general, their products are worth buying because it's not some shit quality that is just going to be trashed out to the side or anything.
Yeah, definitely. And talking about earlier how they're talking about coils, these are the pods and the jewels are disposable. So I mean, when you get done with them, when they run out of juice, you just throw them away and you put a new one in. But with sub-ohm tanks, they take what are called coils, which is the metal piece inside of there. I'm not sure if you can really make that out.
Wire.
But I mean, yeah, it's the big round metal piece inside of that glass. And what that does is essentially it's the same. It gives the same effect as a pod, but they're not. I mean, they're disposable, but you have to buy new ones. Instead of throwing the whole tank away, you just buy a new coil to insert in there.
And the cool thing about it in general, they even you don't even have to go and buy new ones all the time. They even make kits that you can make your own coil.
Yeah, that's one of the main things with RDAs I was talking about earlier. Those do have buildable coils, and you buy the wire, you buy the base. You buy the cotton and you just make your own coil.
In some sense, you'd be like, "Oh, well, that's too much work or something." But in the long run, you get your kind of way.
Yeah, it is a lot more work, and it's not necessarily more expensive. You just have to put a lot more work in, but you can definitely get exactly what you want instead of buying something in hopes of it being what you want.
Yeah, because like what he's showing you right now.
Yeah, this is just a close-up example of a coil. They just usually come in little packs like this.
Like they have a 2, 3, and a 4.
The coils for my vape have all the way from a single head coil to a 6-head coil. This is the quadra coil, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Has little 4 inputs, and this is just what goes inside of the vape whenever your old one burns out.
Yeah, and that right there, you can, instead of having to go buy that, you can go and put in your own how many you want and stuff. If you have you can build your own.
Yeah. And talking about earlier about all the vapes I have, I guess I'll show all those off. This is the first thing that I had, which is really fucking tiny, and it's a box mod, a very small one, and a sub-ohm tank on top. And this is an artery nugget. I don't think they make these anymore. I don't know if this company is even still in business. This is the only thing that I've ever heard of them making or seen that they've made. There's that. And just for a size comparison,
God,
that's them side by side. So I mean, it's definitely a lot smaller. And then, yeah, I've got it on there. The thing that I moved to next was by Smock was the stick prints, and
I like
it's
that.
What they call a pin mod, or just a stick or a pin or whatever, which is just a really long thing. There's not really any screen on most of these. It's just one fire button, but it does have a sub-ohm tank like a normal rig would.
Well, what about them ones? I'm sorry, but them ones that were like it looked just like a pin almost. It was skinny, and then it went like it went. I don't know how to actually say it. You know how a pencil goes into a point. That's how it went when the part that you were sucking into. Them were the ones that were blowing up the most. The ones like your mom had originally.
I don't know. I remember the ones that look like cigarettes.
Oh,
I remember those, but I don't know what you're talking about. I don't
I have
remember.
to show you a picture.
And then after the stick prints, I got the Joytech Penguin, which is a pod system. Oddly enough, it's probably the weirdest one I've ever seen. And I've got it in the packaging just to kind of show what it looks like. And it's meant to look like a penguin. I kind of guess it does.
It's a penguin body.
Yeah, like the body of a penguin. But it's just got the fire button right here. It's got a little window right there so you can see your juice level. But it's pretty cool. It's really compact. The coils are really shitty on them, in my opinion. They go out really fast, and they're really, really prone to burning up. So I wasn't a huge fan of that, but it's really good for beginners. I think I got that whole kit, which came with a coil, for like $36. So they're really cheap.
That one was my favorite one, the way it looked, at least.
Yeah.
Because it was so simple.
And then what I had before I got my Aegis Legend, I had the AL85 from Smock, which is a more compact version of one of their mods called the Alien. So this is the Alien, but it only goes up to 85 watts, which is just how much power you're putting into the vape whenever you smoke it. But this is a really, really reliable mod. If you're looking to get into something for beginners, I would highly, highly recommend the AL85 because it's really compact. It does what you need it to, and there are mesh coils for it, which have much better flavor production than a normal coil. So you're covered on all your bases if you get one of these. This is what I would suggest for somebody getting into it if you wanted to go through the hassle of getting like the internal batteries, because it does have a single internal battery. If you want to learn how to use sub-ohm tanks and stuff like that, the Smock AL85 is a really good place to start, in my opinion.
And also, it's got a slick design with the camo on it.
Yeah, they're always.
If you don't want nothing plain.
In most of these box mods, there are always going to be just fucking a bunch of different color options and pattern options you can get on there. You just have to find them. You can order them online if you want to try to get the coolest one you think there is, but I mean, if you get them from a store, chances are they'll have 2 or 3 of them, maybe only have 1 of them, but there's always options. And then what introduced me to pod systems was the Smock Infinix, which I don't have anymore because mine broke, so I can't speak very positively of this, but it was really good while I had it. It's essentially these came around the same time as the Juul, trying to run off of the success of that, and I really like these. The pods on these are disposable, but they're disposable and refillable, so you buy them and you can fill them up with whatever juice you want. You can buy a bottle of juice, and if you buy a bottle of Salt Nick juice, I've only ever seen them in 30 ml bottles like this, but I mean, a 30 ml bottle for something the size of a Juul lasts a while. So I mean, if you want to get into a pod system, these are cool. I mean, they're good for what they are. Mine just broke for, I don't know. I don't really know why, but it was disappointing. And then the last one I had before I got my Aegis was, and these are fairly new too. These came out last year, I think. The Smog Nord kit, and these are pod systems, but they don't have an automatic draw. They do have a fire button on them. And as I was talking about earlier, these pods have 2 separate kinds of coils that you put in them. So it's a pod like a Juul, but it has a coil like one of the bigger box mods, the sub-ohm tanks. And depending on which coil you get, you can use Salt Nick Vape, which is like a Juul, which is higher concentration of nicotine but not much vapor, or you can use freebase nicotine juice, which is what I smoke in my sub-ohm tank. And I mean, you can get pretty big clouds off of those things if you put the right kind of coil in and go out and find the right kind of juice. So I mean, that's just to show a little bit of variety. If you want to get into vaping and you don't know what to get, that's some of the stuff that I would recommend. Specifically the Smock AL85, and the Nor is a really good pod system if you want something like that. And if you want to be able to smoke juice like this, it'll go into the Nord kit, but you won't have to have the hassle or worry about carrying around something like this.
I think they made the Nord kit for Nord shit.
Mm.
Yeah. But one thing I want to know: how did you take the time to learn all this, or did you look it up on YouTube, or I mean,
ask people? I definitely wasn't like self-taught by it, but I watched a lot of stuff on YouTube about it, and pretty much that's where I learned everything that I know about vapes was from YouTube. At one point, I was following probably 5 or 6 different vape channels, and those were tech reviews, juice reviews, just talking about like components of the vape itself, teaching people about them. It's all the information's out there if you need something like that.
Yeah, I was wondering because a lot of people, even with dipping, when I normally do my dip reviews and stuff, or anything in general, people ask me how'd you learn to do this, or how'd you do that. I took the time and I actually looked this stuff up on YouTube, or I took the time and I actually try to figure it out. Because like when I try to figure out how to edit on the PlayStation, to be honest, I looked up a lot of videos, and the reason why I asked that, how did he learn all this stuff, because I know more likely there's still beginners out there that wants to know a lot more stuff, and there's so many more videos out there on YouTube that you can learn these topics that you need to know about things. And between both of them, which one is your favorite one? Like would you say the pod system, or that kind of?
I personally prefer the box mods with a sub-ohm tank. That's the favorite thing that I've had so far. I've never had an RDA or an RTA or an RDTA, anything like that, where you have to build the coils and you have to drip the juice onto the coils. I've never had anything like that, but so far, out of everything that I've had, I really prefer just anything like this. Like this, the AL85 from Smock that I talked about earlier, or the Artery Nugget, which, I mean, I don't think you can find these anymore, but anything like this is what I prefer. Just because I always like to have something with me. I enjoy being able to blow the big clouds. I don't know, it's not really like showing off to people, it's just something that's cool to me and to be able to do. I mean, the flavors are really good. There's way more juice variety with free-base juices than there is salt nicotine juices, so I just prefer it overall.
Yeah, same as dipping in general, or when people dip in school or something, everybody was like, I could put the fattest dip in or something. It's just the satisfaction that you could do the biggest thing, or that you see this big old like monster that you just made, and you're like, it's just crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, that's, I guess, like a quick start guide to vaping. If you want to get into it, I would. I mean, you could take anything from this video and put it in use however you want to. I mean, you can just talking about vapes.
Yeah.
We just Bubba wanted to learn more about vapes. So.
Something I've been wanting to learn a little bit about, because I hopefully I'm not going to actually be a vapor all the time or anything, but I was actually thinking about trying it out sometimes or something one day, hopefully to entertain y'all, or if y'all want me to, because I've been asked that a few times to make a dip or a vape video, and I just don't know nothing about it, to be honest. I have to learn.
Yeah, and this should be going up on both of our channels, so you can find it at either one, KnuckleHead or Bubba Spit. I mean, yeah. Well, if you liked the video, just let us know what you thought in the comments, and if you watched this far, if you watched this probably almost 40-minute video so far, I mean, thanks for sticking around.
Well, I'm going to sign off here, so do what you got to do when you really want to do it. Have fun with your life while you can. I'll see y'all next time.
And always remember, dreams are never that far away. I'll see y'all next time.